All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into the world of chiropractors,
Ooh, interesting.
but specifically
Okay.
how they can make sure their patients keep coming back.
Gotcha. Patient retention.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at some really interesting advice from Twisty.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're a top growth coordinator for chiropractors and the founder of the SPEZZ.
Okay, yeah. The SPIZ, they're focused on helping chiropractic practices grow, right?
That's right. And we're going to be looking at an excerpt from Twisty CA,
Okay.
which focuses on how to reduce those pesky cancellations, reschedules, and no-shows.
No shows, yeah. Those can be a real headache for any business, not just chiropractors.
Absolutely. And what I found really fascinating is that a lot of these strategies
Yeah.
can apply to all kinds of businesses, and even just understanding the psychology of commitment.
Interesting. So there's something here for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
So how does Twisty approach this whole patient retention thing?
Well, they start by hitting us with the financial impact of no-shows.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, they actually have a formula that shows how even a small percentage of no-shows can really hurt a practice's bottom line.
I bet those missed appointments add up.
They really do. And
Yeah.
I think it makes you realize that patient retention isn't just about being polite.
Right.
It's really vital to a business's success.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of businesses overlook that.
Yes.
So what kind of strategies does Twisty recommend?
Well, what I really like is that they focus on being proactive rather than reactive.
Ooh, I like that. Prevention over reaction.
Exactly. They call it prevention over reaction.
Nice.
And they have some really concrete tactics to put that into action.
Like what?
Well, one example is welcome calls.
Welcome calls.
Yeah, like imagine
Okay,
you
yeah.
book your first appointment with a chiropractor,
Yeah.
and then the day before, you get a personal call from them welcoming you to the practice.
Wow, I'd be impressed.
Right. It's such a simple thing, but I think it would make a big difference in terms of making the patient feel valued and comfortable.
It's all about that personal touch, setting the tone from the beginning.
Exactly. And it's interesting because Twisty also talks about how different generations approach cancellations differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently Gen Z is much more likely to cancel than, say, baby boomers.
That's surprising. I would have thought it'd be the other way around.
Me too, right?
Yeah.
Makes you
Yeah.
think about why that is. Like, are there different priorities or communication styles at play?
Definitely something to consider.
And it shows how important it is to tailor your communication strategies to different groups of people.
For sure. Meet them where they are.
Yeah, like Twisty mentions that younger patients often prefer to communicate digitally.
Makes sense. That's how they're used to doing things.
Absolutely.
But let's not forget that sometimes appointments get missed for reasons that have nothing to do with generational trends.
That's true.
Sometimes life just gets in the way.
Totally. Work conflicts, illness, transportation issues, things happen.
Exactly. It's not always about being forgetful or flaky.
Right. And Twisty acknowledges that while still advocating for clear communication and expectations.
Makes sense. So how do they suggest dealing with those everyday life hiccups?
Well, one of her strategies that really stood out to me is what they call in-treatment room recommitment.
In treatment room recommitment. That's a mouthful.
It is, but it's a really cool idea.
Okay, tell me more.
So basically, it's about using the time you have with the patient during their appointment
Okay.
to really reinforce the value of their care plan
Uh-huh.
and to address any concerns they might have before they leave.
Interesting. So it's about being proactive and addressing potential issues head on.
Exactly. Rather than waiting for a problem to turn into a missed appointment, you're tackling it right there in the moment.
Smart. I like it.
Yeah, it's a great way to build trust and make sure the patient feels heard.
It definitely shows that you're invested in their well-being.
For sure. And it goes hand in hand with another one of Twisty's ideas, which is wow trigger experiences.
Wow, trigger experiences. What are those?
So, have you ever had an experience with a business where they did something unexpected that made you feel really valued as a customer?
Oh, yeah, like when they remember your birthday or send a handwritten thank you note.
Exactly.
Those little touches can make a big difference.
They can. And Twisty's idea is to strategically create those wow moments for patients.
Cool. So how do they suggest chiropractors do that?
Well, in this particular excerpt, they didn't give a specific example,
Okay.
but they emphasized that it's all about mapping out the patient journey
Right.
and finding those key moments where you can create a sense of delight and surprise.
I like that. It's about being intentional with every touch point.
Totally. It shows that you're not just going through the motions, but you genuinely care about the patient's experience.
That makes a huge difference.
It does. And another really interesting tip Twisty offers is about the power of language.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
So when you're scheduling an appointment with a patient,
Yeah.
Instead of saying something like, see you then, try asking, will you be here?
Wait, seriously. Just changing the wording can make a difference.
Apparently so.
Wow.
Twisty argues that that subtle shift from a statement to a question actually increases accountability.
That's fascinating. It's like a little psychological nudge.
It encourages the patient to take ownership of their schedule,
It's amazing how much psychology goes into these seemingly simple interactions.
isn't it? It reminds me of those studies on how the way you frame a question can influence people's decisions
Exactly. It's all about understanding those subtle nuances.
and using them ethically to guide behavior.
Twisty seems to have a real knack for that.
They do, and this is just the tip of the
I
iceberg.
got more.
We've got a lot more to uncover.
Great.
We're going to delve even deeper into Twisty's world in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
We'll explore more of their strategies for patient retention,
Okay.
including this fascinating idea of a checkup practice.
Checkup practice? What's that all about?
You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
All right, I'm hooked.
And we'll also talk about how to handle those tricky patients who ghost you or reschedule constantly.
Ooh, yeah, those are tough ones.
So stay with us.
Looking forward to it. It's incredible how Twisty thinks about every little detail when it comes to the patient experience.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, they even have specific recommendations for newsletters.
Newsletters? I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
What does Twisty say about using newsletters to keep patients engaged?
Well, they say a good newsletter can actually help make patients more likely to show up for their appointments.
Really?
It's all about staying top of mind and giving them something valuable even when they're not in the office.
Okay.
You know, like health tips, practice updates,
Right.
maybe even spotlighting a patient, anything to keep people connected and feeling like they're part of a community.
That makes a lot of sense. If you're getting helpful information from your chiropractor regularly, you're probably less likely to forget about them or blow off their appointment.
Exactly. It's like nurturing a relationship even when you're not physically there.
It is. It's about staying connected.
Yeah, and speaking of nurturing relationships, Twisty has this really interesting concept called a checkup practice.
Checkup practice. I haven't heard of that. What is it?
So basically, it's a system where every patient has an annual exam, whether they're having any specific problems or not.
Oh, interesting.
It's all about promoting a commitment to preventative care.
So instead of waiting for something to go wrong, you're checking in proactively and catching potential issues early.
Exactly. And it creates a natural opportunity to reconnect with patients, see how they're doing, and reinforce the importance of ongoing care.
I like that. It's very forward thinking.
It is. But you know, all of this sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But what about those patients who aren't so consistent?
Right. The ones who ghost you or reschedule all the time.
Yeah, the ones who make you want to pull your hair out.
Exactly. Any advice for dealing with them?
Oh yeah, Twisty is all about having systems in place for those red flag patients.
Okay, like what?
So for example, if someone ghosts you, they recommend having a specific protocol for reaching out
Okay.
and seeing what's going on.
So instead of just letting them disappear, you're actively trying to re-engage them.
Right, and for those chronic reschedulers, they suggest flagging their accounts and having a more proactive conversation about their scheduling habits.
So it's about addressing the issue head on, but with empathy and understanding.
Exactly, not just getting frustrated or giving up on them.
That's important.
It is, and it all comes back to communication. Twisty really emphasizes the importance of having those sometimes difficult conversations with patients, expressing concern, and trying to get to the root of the issue.
It's about building that trust and rapport.
It is. So let's talk about the financial side of things.
Okay, money, yeah, that's always a sensitive topic.
It is. But Twisty is big on transparency and clear communication when it comes to fees.
Good. I think that's important for any business.
Definitely. They recommend having those conversations up front to avoid any surprises or misunderstandings.
Makes sense. No one likes hidden fees.
Right. And Twisty also suggests using no-show fees strategically.
No-show fees. How do they recommend using those?
Well, not as a punishment,
Okay.
but as a way to set expectations and reinforce the value of the appointment.
So it's about creating a system of accountability and respect.
Exactly. And they also recommend considering prepayment or deposits.
Interesting. So patients pay a portion of their fee up front.
Yeah, it can definitely help reduce no-shows.
It could, but I think it's important to be sensitive to patients' financial situation.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Right. So we've talked a lot about preventing no-shows.
Yeah.
But what about when a cancellation does happen?
Well, this is where Twisty gets really into the nitty-gritty of language and communication.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So, for example, they advise against saying things like, "That's okay," or "No worries" when a patient cancels.
Really?
It might seem harmless,
Yeah.
but they argue that it subtly undermines the expectation of professionalism.
Hmm. Interesting. I never thought about it that way.
And another interesting tip is to avoid using the word reschedule.
Okay.
They recommend treating every appointment change as a cancellation and booking a brand new appointment.
I see. So it's about being clear and avoiding any confusion.
Exactly. And finally, they stress the importance of treating appointment reminders like marketing copy.
Marketing copy, for appointment reminders.
Yeah, so instead of a boring generic message,
Yeah.
they encourage crafting engaging reminders that remind people why they booked the appointment in the first place.
That's smart.
It is. It's about using every touch point as a chance to connect with patients and get them excited about coming in.
Wow, Twisty really has thought of everything.
They have. It's like they've cracked the code for patient retention.
They really have a holistic approach.
And one thing that really stood out to me was this principle they talked about: don't let the inmates run the asylum.
Whoa, that sounds a little intense.
I know, right?
What do they mean by that?
Well, they explain that it's not about being authoritarian or disrespectful, but it's about setting clear boundaries and expectations from the start.
Exit.
It's about establishing a culture of respect where patients understand that the practice's time and expertise are valuable.
So it's about being firm but fair.
Exactly. And it goes hand in hand with another one of their key principles, which is proactive communication.
Proactive communication, right?
They stress the importance of being clear, consistent, and upfront with patients about everything from scheduling policies to financial expectations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about eliminating those gray areas that can lead to confusion and frustration.
Exactly. And ultimately, missed appointments.
Right. And it's also about empowering patients to take an active role in their care.
Absolutely. When you're clear about your expectations and you communicate effectively, patients have the information they need to make good decisions.
That's a great point.
And finally, I think the third key principle underlying Twisty's approach is patient centricity.
Patient centricity, yeah, that's essential.
It is, and everything they recommend ultimately boils down to creating a positive, supportive, and engaging experience for the patient.
It's about going beyond just treating their symptoms
Right.
and really focusing on the whole person.
It's about building relationships, not just filling appointments.
And I think that's what makes Twisty so successful.
I get it.
They understand that patient retention is about so much more than just getting people to show up.
It's about creating a culture of care and connection.
Exactly. And recognizing that happy, engaged patients are more likely to stick around and be healthier in the long run.
It's a win-win for everyone involved.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Twisty has given us a lot to think about.
Definitely.
But I'm curious, what does all of this mean for people who aren't chiropractors?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Can we apply these principles to other areas of our lives?
Absolutely. Think about it. Twisty strategies are all about clear communication, setting expectations, building relationships, and creating a positive experience.
Right.
These are universal principles.
They can apply to any interaction, whether it's with clients, colleagues, friends, even family.
It's like a blueprint for creating a more harmonious and productive environment in any area of your life.
I love that.
And it all starts with shifting your mindset from reactive to proactive.
So instead of waiting for problems to happen,
Right.
you're anticipating them and putting systems in place to deal with them.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership and consciously creating the kind of experience you want to have.
And recognizing that small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Like that tip about using the phrase, "will you be here?" instead of "see you then."
Yeah, it's such a small tweak, but it can have a big impact.
It's about those subtle nudges that can influence behavior without being manipulative.
And it's about being consistent.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me about Twisty's approach is that emphasis on creating systems and sticking to them.
When you're consistent, you create predictability and you build trust.
And that trust is the foundation of any successful relationship.
Absolutely. So if we could sum up Twisty's wisdom in one takeaway, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But I think it'd be this: be proactive, be intentional, and be human.
Beautifully said. It's a reminder that even in a world of automation and technology, human connection is still at the heart of everything.
And those connections are what make life worth living.
They are. So before we wrap up our deep dive into Twisty's insights,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something they mentioned that really resonated with me, this idea of treating every interaction as an opportunity.
Oh, yeah. I love that idea.
It's so powerful. It means that every email, every phone call, every encounter, no matter how small, has the potential to make a positive impact.
And it reminds us That we're not just passive observers.
Right.
We're actively shaping our experiences and the experiences of those around us.
We're all artists in a way, and our interactions are the brushstrokes that create the masterpiece of our lives.
I love that analogy.
And with a little intentionality, we can create something truly beautiful.
Let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll continue to explore Twisty's strategies for patient retention. Through all these strategies from Twisty,
Yeah.
one thing that keeps coming up is this idea of systems, having clear protocols, being intentional about patient retention.
Oh, yeah, like they've got this roadmap for success, right?
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of building that loyalty.
I like that.
So it makes me wonder, are there any specific systems Twisty recommends for handling those inevitable cancellations?
Oh, absolutely. They're big on having a really clear cancellation process
Okay.
and making sure everyone knows it, staff and patients alike.
So everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. No more scrambling when someone cancels last minute.
Makes sense. So it's all planned out in advance.
Yep. And they're also big on keeping track of those last-minute changes, the no-shows.
Like recording them right away.
Yeah, so you can spot any patterns
Okay.
and catch potential problems before they get worse.
It's like being a detective, right?
Yeah.
Looking for clues in the data.
Exactly. Using that info to make things better for everyone.
I like that. So what happens when a patient actually cancels or doesn't show up?
Well, Twisty has some specific advice for that, too.
All right, lay it on me.
They say, call the patient within 5 minutes of their missed appointment.
Oh, wow. Really? That's soon.
Yep. Just a quick check-in, see what happened.
Okay.
It shows you care, right? And it reinforces how important that appointment was.
It's also a chance to reschedule right away.
Exactly. Minimize that disruption to the schedule.
Right.
And if they can't make it in person,
Yeah.
they suggest offering alternatives like a telehealth checkup or maybe a Zoom session to go over some exercises they can do at home.
Oh, that's a great idea. It shows you're flexible and committed to their care.
And it shows how Twisty thinks about patient engagement even outside the clinic.
For sure. So beyond that initial call, are there any other recommendations?
Yeah, they also say to have a clear message on your voicemail and email, stating that you don't monitor those channels for cancellations or reschedules.
So setting those boundaries from the start.
Exactly. So patients know exactly how to reach you if they need to make a change.
That makes things so much easier for everyone.
It does, but, with all these systems and strategies,
Yeah.
we can't forget that human connection is still at the heart of it all.
Right. It's about building those relationships built on trust and understanding.
And remembering that every interaction, big or small, can make a difference.
So true. Twisty has really given us a masterclass in patient retention.
They have, and they've given us a lot to think about, even outside healthcare.
Definitely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into their insights, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought-provoking question.
Okay, shoot.
If you could take just one of Twisty's tactics and use it in your own business, or even your personal life,
Ooh, interesting.
which would it be and why?
What resonated with you the most?
What little change could you make that would have a big impact on your relationships?
Maybe it's being more careful about the words you use.
Or setting clearer boundaries?
Or taking the time to really personalize your communication.
Right. Maybe it's about being more proactive, anticipating challenges, having those systems in place.
Whatever it is, I encourage you to take action.
Yeah.
Because even those small changes can make a huge difference in your life and the lives of those around you.
It's about creating a more positive and productive experience.
Remember, every interaction is an opportunity.
That's a great point.
Choose to make it count.